Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC and with me is
Wolf.
and today we are starting a new series and by new I mean it already has 4 seasons but we are it's new to the Outcast. We are starting to cover it today kind of by popular demand because some of my friends wanted me to see this and then I tell you to watch this?
No, I watched this entirely on my own. After I'll say this, Tumblr inundated me with because I'm the one who keeps track of our Tumblr and everything like that, and posts stuff to it because no one else does. I do all the work here, but
Yeah.
I was inundated with stuff for one of the main ships from the show, as well as other little different things for season 4 that I will admit got me interested. And I decided, you know what, before I'm majorly spoiled on anything, I'm just going to go ahead and watch this and find out about it and see
Uh,
if I like it.
So just
Because I
people
had
are
previously,
already
I will admit, I did write this show off previously as something I wouldn't enjoy. But we'll get to that.
okay.
They need to know what the
We'll
show
get to
is.
this because if they read the titles, they saw the titles, they see the title cards, they know we're talking. We are doing this podcast for the honor of Grayskull. Haha, got this out of the way. It's Shira
Podcast's
and the
over. We're
prince.
done. I quit. But
Before this,
yes,
he told me that he has no problem with this joke being made. So
there's no proof
no,
of
you're.
this. There's no proof of this whatsoever.
I will forever know that you're a liar.
But
Forever
no one else
carry
will.
on the shame.
It's something you can never prove, though, so no one else knows. So you're the liar.
Am I?
Yes.
Well, that was anticlimactic, but okay, whatever. So anyway, we're talking about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the
Yes.
you know the 2018 version of She-Ra, not the one from the 80s. Which, before we start tackling this one, I have to ask you: have you ever watched the old She-Ra or He-Man stuff? Because all I know
I've,
about She-Ra prior to this is that she's the female He-Man. That's all I know.
to be fair, yeah, that's pretty much all I knew. I've seen, like, images. I know what some of the old characters looked like from that old 80s show, but, like, the old 80s show was very much just like He-Man and She-Ra both, I'm fairly sure, were both just made to sell toys. That was it. So there really wasn't that much to them substance-wise, as far as I'm aware. Commenters feel free to lambast me in the comments if I am wrong, right? But
All
as
I know
far as I'm
about.
aware and know, those shows weren't, there wasn't much to them at all. Which is in stark contrast to this version of She-Ra.
Yeah, because I'll tell you this much that all I knew again was that because I never watched the He-Man or the original She-Ra, like for all I know, it was like some obscure 80s thing that was way before my time
Mm-hmm.
and has aged terribly if YouTube poops are anything to go by. But
Hmm.
and when all of a sudden I did hear like I like one day I saw like, oh, there's a new Shira show on Netflix and I'm like, really, Shira? Like it kind of caught me off guard that the 80s and 90s stuff are coming back lately, but this was one of those, really, this is coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
no,
was.
it definitely seemed like one of those things of, did anyone really want this? Did anyone really ask for this? Were people clamoring for it? Did we really need it? But
Can you actually imagine people going in front of the Netflix offices, yelling for the honor of Grayskull in order to get this greenlit? Like,
I
I
can't
mean,
say, right? I cannot
you,
say that this is a bad thing.
no, 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 no. Okay, to get this out of the way now, we do like the show, like
Oh
this
yeah,
current show.
I mean,
We like it.
like saying that we like it. We'll get into like some more general thoughts here in just a bit. I do have to ask, like, since you brought it up, what is your opinion on bringing back some of these older shows? Like so far, from what I've
Yeah.
seen of, like they did a Thundercats thing a while back, which
Yeah, that's the
didn't
thing.
go much of anywhere. But I was going to say, like, I didn't hate that one. I thought it was good for what I saw of it. Then we have She-Ra now. There's been DuckTales, which I still haven't watched, but I've heard amazing things
Oh,
about.
the new
Like, you won't
DuckTales is
shut up
great
about it.
because it's awesome and you
I'm
need to
kidding.
watch it.
I know. I need to. I need to sit down and watch it. But like, I'm kind of
The
glad
10th Doctor is Scrooge McDuck for crying out loud.
this is fair. Like, I'm actually really glad we're getting some of these older shows coming back and with newer themes and being done up into more like standard and today times, right? And they're doing so well with some of them too. Like, I'm really glad we're getting this. Like,
Yeah, like and through Netflix, like Nickelodeon has like had the Rocko's Modern Life movie and the Invaders. Oh, the Invaders was so good.
agreed.
And
I mean, you can sit back and say, right, that it might be creatively bankrupt, that Hollywood can't come up with anything new. But at the same time, like, these things are so old for some of them, and I'm just glad to see them come back and see them have a new lease on life, if you will, right?
you know something,
Because
this
I think it's
is
worked out.
to jump ahead on what I kind of think of the show. This is like the equivalent in my eyes. This is the Netflix TV show equivalent of Guardians of the Galaxy. You know how when that movie was first shown up, people were like, "Okay, Marvel are off the rails. Who even thought that making a movie about Guardians of the Galaxy will ever be a good idea?" And then it just exploded when that movie came out, and it
I
was
think
like,
that was one
"Holy
of
shit!"
the fan
And
favorites,
like,
right? Like, that was one of the more
yeah, that's
popular Marvel
oh
Cinematic
God,
Universe movies.
yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy is great. Like, I
I
mean,
definitely enjoyed it.
yeah, like I was on track when I saw there's a raccoon in the movie, but people are like, really, the guys who got you the Avengers and Captain America and Iron Man, now they're making a movie about a talking tree and a raccoon in space. It's like, what the hell is this? And then everyone just went completely 180 when the movie came out
Yo,
because
he's not a raccoon. He's not a
Rocket is a
raccoon.
raccoon.
No.
He is a raccoon. His name is Rocket Raccoon. It's like saying Mickey Mouse is not a mouse.
But he doesn't see himself that way, so you can't say that. Being racist in here, HC.
I'm racist. You are. You're just wrong. Okay. Anyway. Back on track. So this was that. The show was like the Guardians of the Galaxy thing to me. That it's like, who asked for this? How is this even going to work? But it's obvious. But like Guardians of the Galaxy, you can tell how much James Gunn was passionate about this, and you can tell how much I have her name here,
Noelle
Noelle
Stevenson.
Stevenson. Yeah, you can tell that she had a passion for She-Ra, and she said, "I want people to see She-Ra the way I see her." And if you ask me, mission accomplished. Like, I still don't know much about the original show, but I like this. I like this. Give me more. Why not?
This is true.
So with that said, like I'm assuming, as we kind of said that I like the show, you like the show, but do we have anything to compare with the old She-Ra? I can tell you, I know nothing about the original except for the fact that her actual name is indeed Adora. That's all I know.
I got nothing. I got nothing
Because
except the old look, and that's it. Literally, it. That's all I've got.
yeah,
Like, that's all I
because
remember.
I was curious, considering some plot details that are not a part of the first season, so we won't talk about this now.
I'm.
If
Let's be honest. I'll be completely honest. I don't. After having watched this, I don't intend to go back and watch the old one. I don't feel like I would want to be honest.
some people did out of curiosity, and even
I
if it's
get
not
that,
as good,
but I definitely don't think I would enjoy it. Right? I mean, to be fair, right? I sat back when She-Ra first came out because She-Ra did not come out this year. When did it come out exactly?
it came out.
Here.
It's like a few
Did it
weeks
really
ago.
come out? Did it
Yeah,
really?
it was November
Season 4 came out
November
this year.
2018.
Yeah, I thought it was later than that, but it came out in 2018 was season 1. Wow, they got that
Yeah,
out much faster than what I thought they did.
Hmm. Yeah, like
That makes me kind of happy. Maybe season 5 will be a lot quicker than what I thought.
for I guess you can say for the honor of this show's 1 year anniversary. There you go.
This is true. Um, well, with that said, right, like, as I was saying though, I did write the show off when it first came out as something that there's no way I would enjoy this. There's no way I would like it, and I highly doubt I would ever get into it. So I'm just not going to bother. And so I said that about this version of She-Ra. So, and I'm sitting here saying that about the old version of She-Ra. I might go back and watch it and actually really enjoy it. Who knows? I'm going to err on the side of I probably wouldn't. Still yet, I don't have any major plans to go back and watch the old version of She-Ra. As of now.
I'm not planning on this myself.
Maybe commenters can comment in the comments below and they'll get me interested enough to say, fine, I'll go watch it. And then come back and I'll talk about it. Who knows?
One thing I will say, one thing I do want to say about this She-Ra, and like, I like the show. I I was a friend recommended it to me, and I don't remember, like, because friends recommend me stuff all the time. Like, if you look at my backlog, there are like 50 shows and movies I need to get to, 50 each, not together. So
do you have an actual list, or is that just all in your head?
I have an actual list, believe it or not.
Oh God, you're one of those people.
I get
but you've never
recommended
watched them
stuff.
Though. That's the problem. So you're like,
I know, but I do.
You're
get
lawful evil. You're lawful evil is what you are.
But the thing is, I got to this.
You have a list, but then you never actually pay attention to the list or watch anything.
Well, I do. Believe it or not, I do. But the thing is that as soon as I check one thing off, another thing replaces it.
Here's the big question. Do you tell your friends and talk with them about it, or do you just never say anything and just watch it, and that's it? And your friends never know if you watched it or not.
Like, I will tell them if I watched something or not, and if I did start watching something, then I will tell them, like, hey, I started this and I'm liking it so far, or you know what, it wasn't to my liking.
So you're lawful neutral then, okay.
Mm-hmm. Hey, say what you want and say what you want. I watched Ruby because of you. You can't criticize me for it.
I stayed on top of you a lot, though. But also, I can't say anything. I don't even make a list. I just say, okay, yeah, sure, I'll get to it. Maybe I get to it. Maybe I won't. I'll definitely never tell you I did. So I am very chaotically evil. So hats off. At least you're neutral.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, so where were we? Regarding so a friend recommended me this.
Great start already.
Yeah, great start. Well, we are kind of on topic because we're talking about She-Ra, so but anyway, a friend recommended this to me. Ellie, if you're watching this, shout out to you. And I did tell other friends, like, hey, I would recommend this to you, and everyone says like treats it like it's one of the greatest shows ever made. And I'm like, I like it, but not that much. You know what I mean?
I get you. I disagree somewhat.
With me or them?
With you.
Okay.
As usual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, otherwise there won't be a show. I mean, come on, we need to make this interesting.
For me, right, I think, I said before, right, like, excuse me, I said before, right, that this show was, I slept on it. I didn't think I would enjoy it. I didn't think I'd like it. I didn't think it would be up my alley at all. And I think I took a lot of other people's, like, this is definitely going to be a bit too girly for me. This isn't going to be something I enjoy at all. This is not going to be fun. This is not going to be up my alley. I'm just not going to like it. End of. So I just won't bother. And time went on. I saw a few things pop up of it here and there, but nothing major, nothing that really got me interested until apparently season 4 come out earlier. I think it was this November, correct? Or was it October?
What? I think it was in October.
It was sometime here recently, right? It wasn't that far back. We have
the fourth season is, the fourth season for intended purposes is relatively new.
It was this November. It was November 5th is when it released. So it was this November. So not too long. We're not covering it too far away. So, but yeah, I read it off until this season 4 come out, and I saw a few things pop up of people talking about it, specifically of people talking about Catradora and different art pieces for it, and that definitely caught my interest a little bit. I will admit, because a lot of people have some just fun ideas that really, I guess, shine out to me for Catradora. But we'll get to that, especially when we start talking about season 4 as well. And then just different things about people talking about some of the characters within season 4 and other things. And it's like, well, you're right. Screw it. Fine. I'll watch it before I get completely spoiled on everything, right? And I did. And I honestly have to say, I think this show, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, would be my sleeper hit for 2019. Like, I think it's
Yeah, that's I would agree with that.
I think
I would
it's
agree with that.
probably my favorite show that I have watched this year.
Okay, I won't go that far, but
I mean,
and again, just to say it like this, I'm not saying that just because I don't think it's the best thing in the world, it's still a great show. I'm not taking away from this. I'm just saying when people say this is one of the best shows they've seen ever, it's like,
you heard it here first,
really?
ladies and gentlemen. HC hates She-Ra.
Yeah, of course I do.
It's a shame. Hate
Yeah,
to
it's
see
such a
it.
shame
But
that such a shame that I'm taking my time to explain that I actually like it, and then idiots like you decipher my words. Like saying that you dislike one thing about the Joker's ending, and it's like, oh, you hate Joker. Ah,
don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. I'll deal with him later off camera. We'll make sure
off
HC is
camera.
fired and off mic. We'll
We
make sure
don't see each other.
off mic. You know what I meant. We'll make sure HC is fired
Well,
and we'll get someone
well,
better in place of him.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you trust someone who confuses a mic for a camera? Would you trust this man? Because I don't.
I mean, you shouldn't, but that's not the point.
Yeah, that's not the point indeed.
But yeah, She-Ra
Anyway,
is a very enjoyable and fun show, even if it's not entirely like the best thing in the world, even if you don't see it that way. And I completely understand why you wouldn't, right? There is stuff out there that I would say that I do like and enjoy more, right? But I still feel this is definitely one of my personal favorites of this year that I have watched, right? I know it didn't come out in 2019, but I watched it this year. And of the shows I've watched this year, this one definitely sits up there, and I would have to say is in like my top 5 of shows I have watched this year. That's not many, but still yet, point still stands.
okay, with that said, we are going to go over episode by episode, and this is the part people. I'm assuming that if you are listening to this, you are fans of She-Ra, and you probably seen this season, but still, to those of you who are new to this, we are talking spoilers from now on. Season 1 only. So, but if you are coming into this and you still need to catch up on season 1, then this is your chance to close the podcast, go do something else, and then come back after you're done. So with that said, spoiler starts in 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's do this. So our first episode is a two-parter, The Sword, and we are pretty much tackling two-parters as one episode. So with that said, I think it's a really good start.
Agreed.
In order for considering the fact that again I'm coming into this, all I know about She-Ra is that she's a female He-Man, and I don't really care about or know something about He-Man. This did a great job introducing me to this mythology. I'm not sure how much it follows from the original, but they established this world, they established these characters, and this hooked me. I was hooked from this two-parter.
Completely agreed. Like
So
this
just to go over,
this was definitely, it got me into the show. And having watched this first episode, right? Episode 1, I can immediately see exactly why people ship Catrador, why people ship Catra and Adora together. Like you can tell immediately.
Something. You said that you walked into this show with that chip in mind, right?
Yes, I had seen the ship before I saw the show.
Well, I had zero idea what the shippers are doing with this show. Like I went in completely blind, and as soon
Mm-hmm.
as I saw these two, I'm like people are shipping them, aren't they? Oh, you see, my Instagram agrees. Like there you go. Like I just saw these two, and I'm like, oh yeah, people ship them. There's no way they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lie to me. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's not like I'm like, oh, I don't like this. Actually, I kind of ship it too, to an extent. But like as soon as I saw them, I'm like, okay, these two are shipped. I should be ready.
I will admit, even though, I've sat here and said that I hate relationships, this is one ship that I will stand behind too. Like, Wolf hates relationships in any and all forms, but Wolf will stand behind the adorable
By
cat girl,
Adora
her
and
friend.
Katra.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I will say that Katra is one of my favorite characters in this show.
Yeah,
For
agreed.
for reasons we will get to as
I
the show
mean,
goes on.
they won me over with her when they had her curled up in a damn ball sleeping at the foot of Adora's bed. I'm like, screw you, you can't do that. Damn it, I like her now. Fine. Fine, I'm
Yeah.
in. I like her.
And this is something interesting, that they make you care for Adora and Katra's friendship, and see them, that establishing the fact that they grew up together and have trained together, fought together, but and that there are good friends, even though you can tell Katra is a bit jealous of Adora and how much she's and that Adora is
It's
basically
not
not
so much
successful.
jealousy, right? She's not so much jealous of Adora. It's more that she dislikes the fact that everyone sees her as Adora's shadow. That she dislikes the fact that everyone sees her as Adora's pet, quote unquote, if you will.
Yeah.
She puts up with it, but she's not necessarily jealous of Adora in so much as that she wishes that everyone saw her for what she is and what she's capable of, and they don't, right? Even
Mhm.
Adora has that problem herself at times too.
Yeah.
So
That's true, but
I wouldn't call it jealousy.
there is maybe not jealousy, but there is like Adora has some sort of a superiority complex with her. I think
Of course, and I
that's
think
the
a lot of that, some of this we can't really get into because it's I guess we know we can get into this much, like again, like Adora has her flaws, and it's kind of what I think I love about this show is we go further and further into it, we'll be able to talk more and more about this of you can see that all of these characters are flawed. Every single one of them are flawed. Every single one of our main characters, anyways, you can see their flaws. You can see that they're not perfect, right? Especially between Catra and Adora. Like you sympathize with Catra, but you can still understand. You can understand like this is where she's coming from. You can see her for what she is, but she's still flawed, and what she's doing to get back at Adora, right, is still wrong. But you can also
and
see that
but
Adora, being supposedly Catra's best friend, really doesn't understand her best friend and what she wants. Right?
and
I love that.
there's also jumping a lot ahead here. At the end of the two-parter, when Katra sees the Katra see um, you know, when Katra sees that Adora is Shira, and she tells her, "Come with us," and Adora tells her, "No, I don't agree with what the Horde is doing. And I'm going to fight it." And you can tell that despite both of them thinking they're doing the right thing, you can see that it breaks them both. Even though there's kind of even you can say whatever you want about Adora not treating Katra with the utmost respect and everything, but you can still see that they are good friends, and it breaks them both that they have to, that one of them jumped ship.
Well, you learn a lot more about why it especially hurts Catra though
Yeah,
later on this
yeah, and
season, right?
this is another thing though that when Adora finds out what the Horde is doing, like she realizes that her entire life up to that point was a lie, basically. she got they were doing a good thing, and then she finds out that the Horde is the reason why the world is in shambles to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Well,
another thing.
and I love, right, like, this is all a part of, this is all, both of these things, what HC's talking about is still a part of the sword. It's just part 2 in it, so episode 2, but it's all the same. We generally,
Yeah,
for those of you who might be new, we look at
yeah.
two
Like I
parters
said,
as the same full episode.
we are treating two parters as one big episode.
Yeah. So, like, and pointing out, right, like, she tells Catra this, like, hey, the Horde's evil. I never knew this. How did, do you, can you not see this? And Catra just is like, duh. Had you just now figured this out? I love that because it shows, right, that, how Catra already viewed the Horde, but she put up with all of the bull. She put up with all of the, treatment because of Adora, because Adora was supposed to be there, because Adora supposedly saw her as that equal, right? When no one else did. And then Adora leaves, but Adora didn't leave the Horde because of Catra and what she was dealing with. She left the Horde because of other people, right? I just love the dynamic there. Like, you can see, like, Adora, and I know a lot of people might get upset, like, how easily Adora switches sides, right? How easily she just forgets about all of her old friends. But I feel like, personally, that's kind of the point for Adora, that she is somewhat simplistic in how she views the idea of good versus evil. She just sees it as black and white. She doesn't see a whole lot of gray there, at least not as of right now, not in the first season. And that's kind of one of her flaws, right? I feel that's one of her flaws, though.
Yeah, that's what I like, though, that, they kind of using that naivete as, as a way for our character to grow. Kind of, not sure how much of a weird comparison this is, but kind of like Wonder Woman in the movie.
You would have more knowledge of that than I would. I have not. You're talking about the new movies, right?
Well, obviously, there wasn't any Wonder Woman before the one from 2 years ago.
This is true. So I've not seen those, so I can't say too much on that. So you'll have to talk about that one. I cannot say anything.
Well,
I just have to nod and agree.
Like, people who watched the Wonder Woman movie, tell us in the comments if you agree with me on this or not.
Mm-hmm. Engagement. Yeah. Wink. I get what you're doing. Talking about stuff from the episode specifically, right? I love Bo. He's just best friend ever.
Before we get to the good guys, though, there's one character from the bad side that I really like. I really like her design, her voice, and that's Shadow Weaver.
Oh, interesting.
There's something about that, that red clothing, but with the white eyes and black moving hair, and that kind of soothing but intimidating and also calming voice that really sells this character.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely, it definitely gives off like, yeah, I'll agree. Like, it really does fit her, especially when you learn more about her character and how she treated Catra and Adora growing up, right? Like, it really does just fit with her character and just how manipulative she can be, right? It really does fit well. I agree. I completely agree with that.
Okay, so now we can talk about the good guys. And you already mentioned Bo. Bo,
Bo's best friend and best kidnapper, by the way. Like, he is way too nice to kidnap people.
Also, his name is Bo, and he's fighting with a bow. Ha! Good one, showrunners. Good one. And then we have Glimmer. I'll have to admit, I don't hate Glimmer, not in this season anyway, but she's the least of the characters in my opinion.
I'll admit, right, out of the princesses that we meet, I don't think Glimmer is my absolute favorite. And I feel like she did kind of grate just a little bit in this season, right?
She's the rebellious princess. I've seen this so many times.
Well, they're a part of the rebellion, HC.
Well, and this guy wanted to fire me for the honor of Grayskull joke. For the honor of I don't know what. You're a hypocrite. You
never
are a
said
hypocrite.
I wasn't. I've never said I'm not a hypocrite.
Okay, good. That's your plan. Please may your character development start already because it's
no,
waiting.
Never. I will always be a hypocrite. I will just admit that I'm a hypocrite. I full well know I'm a hypocrite. That's not going to stop me from being one. But continue on.
Anyway, um, so so while taking, so now that we've gone over the characters we have here, so one day when Adora and Catra are flying around in one of those vehicles, they found this. Adora finds the sword. She lifts it up, says that wonderful catchphrase, who I'm not sure how many times the AI voice actress has to repeat in the recording session, and then she transforms into She-Ra for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that people have made fun of transformation sequences in these types of shows, but honestly, I like the transformation sequence in
I
this.
liked it, but after I saw it about 15 or I don't know how many more times, it did get a little bit old. Like, I don't have to see her transform every single time show.
Which, to be honest, they do cut as the
Yeah,
show
they
goes
do. As the
on.
show goes on, they do kind of cut it down, or they'll kind of cut away from it altogether, or it'll just be a very quick rendition. They'll find ways to play with it to keep it fresh, I guess you could say. But it does get, because that can get very old very quickly. So I'll give them credit. Like, they do find ways to keep it quote unquote fresh, right? And change it up just ever so slightly to make sure you're not seeing the exact same candid animation over and over and over again. It's still got a little old, though, I will say.
But something I do want to ask is that, at least in this two-parter, Shira doesn't talk. Like, whenever Adora is Shira, she doesn't talk.
Well,
Did you?
and she does later.
Yeah, that's something I want to say that, in this two-parter, whenever she's Shira, she doesn't talk. And I was like, oh, so is they going like to do this thing like whenever she's Shira, she can talk, because she's this mythical creature or something. And then in like the next episode, okay, she talks. Never mind. She has the same voice and everything. But
Mythical creature is such an interesting way to put that. Be careful, HC.
you know what I
I know
mean.
what you
You know what I
mean.
mean.
Still, be careful.
Be careful with what? What did I say?
Nothing. Just don't worry about it. Commenters might know what I mean by that. We'll see. Anyways,
Okay. Whatever he meant, I have no idea what he's talking about. Moving on.
ignorance is bliss, I
So,
guess. I think right the reason they don't have Adora talk as She-Ra in this first two-parter, and this is something they kind of reinforce as time goes on as well, is to kind of make note of this fact that Adora and She-Ra aren't really the same person, right? Like, they are both seen differently, if you will. This does
yeah.
change as time goes on, but in this first season, right, it's very much I'm not She-Ra, She-Ra's not me. I'm just kind of the quote unquote vessel for She-Ra, right? Like, She-Ra's supposed to be this very different thing.
Yeah, that's
And I
a
find
that's
that
a thing
interesting,
that yeah, that's
personally.
actually a common theme in this season. Honestly, that is is Adora really Shira, or is Shira just a power up?
Hmm.
Which honestly, again, when they show that Shira doesn't really talk, that's another thing that I thought was kind of cool. That to show that difference, but then when Shira does talk, she has the exact same voice as Adora, which is like, okay, I don't mind that at all. Just to be clear, but it's like you had something there that could have been cool, but whatever.
I think, right, it again, I feel like it doesn't hurt anything that's the same voice, because
Oh
it
no,
kind
no,
of
no, it
reinforces.
doesn't.
Again, it kind of plays with a more. I feel it plays with that idea of, like, is Adora She-Ra? Is She-Ra something else entirely? Is that a completely different person, or is are they one and the same? And can you differentiate between the two of them? Right? And should you? Again, like, there's some interesting stuff going on there, I feel, that this season tries to play around with when it comes to the idea of Adora and She-Ra.
Well, aside from that, I don't really have a lot more to say about the two-parter. And
I do.
just like this. Okay, so go ahead.
Number one, well, I have to mention the fact that Adora is adorable when she sees, like, when she finding out that Adora's never had a party and has no clue what a party is adorable. And everything she partakes in that and just experiencing that for the first time and seeing a horse for the first time and how
Yeah,
she freaks out about it. It's all wonderful and silly and adorable. Ha ha pun.
yeah,
So Adora is adorable, of course. After that, like I said, Bo before, like his back and forth with Glimmer was great, and his back and forth with Adora as well. Like all of that was just really fun, and just kind of seeing the camaraderie grow between them, even though Adora is their quote unquote captive.
yeah. That's
But other than
that
that,
is
like I
indeed
think
cool.
I think this is a really good first two-parter to setting up the series as a whole, right? And I think
Yeah.
it really worked to draw me in quite well, and seeing the relationship between Adora and Catra, and then seeing the flip side of that with the relationship between Adora, Bo, and Glimmer, and then seeing the end to this little two-parter and how Adora and Catra both part ways, and how they both feel about that in some way. Like you get a little glimpse into that personality-wise here between the two of them. Very interesting stuff.
So, so moving on to episode three,
Episode 3.
Raz.
Raz.
So this sets up to a few things for the future of the show. For one, this is the first appearance of Swiftwind, Shira's horse. Wolf, are you
Yes.
there?
Yes, sorry,
Okay.
had to cough, so I muted.
Okay. So this is the first appearance of Swiftwind. This is also the first appearance of Madame Raz, who seems to refer to Adora as Mara, and this is not this is are they talk about it in this season? I'm not sure. Should I mention it? Okay, apparently Wolf just left me to talk, so I won't mention the Mara thing just yet, just in case it's not in this season. Excuse me for being a bit rusty. It's been a bit of a while since I've seen this, and I didn't have time to prepare. So, but when Madame Raz, then we first started learning about the first one's tech that what Shira's sword is made out of, which again will be a bigger plot point whenever we continue the show.
I'm
But
back. I have
okay,
no clue what
thank
you
you.
said, but I'm back. Sorry.
I just introduced the fact that we have Madame Raz who introduces and brings up the plot point of Mara and
Mm.
the entire and the first one's tech,
There's a lot.
which is
There's
what.
some things I want to say about Raz, but unfortunately, I want to focus them on when we cover season 2 and season 3. I believe it
Yeah,
is,
I just
which is
yeah I just
unfortunate.
said that. Yeah, I just want to say I also said this that I don't want to talk about the Mara thing just yet because we're not
Hmm.
there yet.
Yeah, it's mostly just we have Mara brought up. She used to be the past Shira, it seems, but we don't know much else about her other than there was a Shira before Adora now, which is neat, which is interesting, which kind of adds a bit of mystery to
Which
everything.
I this is one thing I did research on. You know I thought maybe that a cool thing would have been if the name of the Shira from the '80s show would have been Mara, but from what I
Nope.
understand, but from what I understand, her name is Adora in that show as well.
Hmm.
So, but wouldn't it be cool? But whatever. It's not. It's just a random thought I had. It's nothing. It has nothing to do with the show.
It would have been a nice little callback thing, I guess you could say, but no, it's not. I yeah yeah I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. Season 2. We'll get to it in
Yeah,
season 2. We
we'll get to
promise.
this later.
It might be a little
But
while, but we'll get to
yeah,
it.
but this is kind of an episode to like show you the world, show you and kind of plant seeds.
It gives you
Honestly,
more of it's world building, right? It gives you a lot of background knowledge in terms of like there was a Shira before Adora, and that Madame Raz apparently knew her, and that you have you learn a bit more about Swiftwind, right? And you learn also, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit about that the Crystal Palace too, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
like this is. I think it's. Yeah, I think Again, this is like a world building episode to get. Okay, Adora is out of the Shadow Realm. You know, you are. You are with her, discovering this new world. You need to understand what you're going into.
Mm-hmm.
So they take time to establish it. Which for a show like this an episode like this.
You broke up. Repeat, please. You broke up.
Um,
Say again.
I said that in a show like this type of episode is important.
Mm.
So because you need like an episode or two to establish the rules of the world, like what made this world go in the past, what who inhabited it. You need this kind of stuff, so it's good that we have an episode about this.
This is true.
But nonetheless, I don't have much to say. Like, should we move on?
Um, Let me think. Is there anything? I'll point out that I liked. You get to see more of Adora fighting Ashira again in this episode, just like the previous episode, which I really enjoyed the fight scenes in this
Yeah,
series.
yeah,
I think they're
the
animated
fight
really
scenes are
well and
great.
they're done really well. And we didn't talk about that the first episode, but yeah, I really enjoy seeing that. We get to see, we learn about a little bit about the first ones, and we didn't bring that up. We do learn about the first ones in the first two episodes. We learn a bit more about them in this episode as well, like I said before with the Crystal Palace and stuff like that. And um, anything else? We see Catra is promoted to Force Captain in Adora's absence by Hordak and Shadow
By
Weaver
the way,
not being happy about that.
Yeah. By the way, Hordak, awesome villain.
Mm.
Like really threatening.
Especially when we get to learn more about him. Unfortunately, not this season though.
Yeah, this is a thing you see that season one really set stuff up, which
Yeah, season one I would say is
you
definitely a lot more setup to some degree, but I think it's very good setup.
like something we just talked about Dragon Prince a week before. I think it does, which also the first season was more of a setup than an ad.
Hmm.
So I think Shira did it a teeny tiny bit better.
I would agree. I think She-Ra's better setup than what Dragon Prince season one is.
And but I think it's also because Shira has more episodes to work with.
Mm, possibly.
And also the format of the show, in a sense, it allows more. It allows it more.
We
But
should talk about in this episode as well, in episode 3 with Raz. Like Adora only meets Raz because she's worried about meeting Glimmer's mom, the queen of Bright Moon, and the fact that she's a Horde soldier. And I also want to point out, I find it interesting, right, that Glimmer wants to introduce She-Ra to her mother and not Adora, the Horde soldier, right? Again, just
yeah,
kind
this
of
is
reinforcing that idea that She-Ra and Adora not quite the same person as of yet. They're very different.
this is also a thing that comes back in kind of jumping a bit ahead to the next episode where they're starting to trying to get out back the princesses. The first princess are going to get, Adora comes in as Shiva, thinking that
Mm-hmm.
people won't trust an ex-member of the Horde, but they will trust Shiva.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to jump straight into that? Flowers for She-Ra.
Um, yeah, that's the next episode. So yeah, so now that Shira is back, so the they kind of have a plan to Glimmer has a plan to like reassemble the Princesses Alliance,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that will give them the advantage over the Horde. So the first princess they want to recruit is Perfuma, who is the princess of flowers basically, and
Yeah.
this
Oh,
brings up that
plants.
when they
Plants in general,
yeah
not
of
just
plants,
flowers.
and when they go to recruit her, Adora is already transformed into Shira, and
Mm-hmm.
she does mention it that the the people, I'm not sure if I want the names, but Perfuma's citizens would most likely react better to Shira than a whole soldier. It's still a point where people might still be afraid of Adora if she came as she is. So this is interesting again to point out that Adora and Shira are not really the same person. One is a vessel to the other, or one transforms into the other. We don't know yet.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a good showing of that hey, Adora's still learning and everything, and she's still not great at it, and it also kind of depicts like how too reliant some of these people might be on Shira, and how like they expected her to just be able to solve all their problems and them not have to do anything to help with that, right? And I like the fact
And
that
that's another thing that when Adora as shows up in the village, the villagers kind of believe that she would be she could bring heal the dying plant,
mm-hmm,
and but she doesn't know how to do that. And when she doesn't, people start questioning it, which I also think that is a thing to establish. I like these kind of stories that Adora is not the Shira that Mara before her was.
mm-hmm.
Like she needs to, being Shira doesn't necessarily mean that you need to that you are, you need to act like a according to a rule book or something.
I
You
also
can
like
also find
oh go ahead.
you can also find your own way. And in this, Adora does learn that just because she's carrying the vessel of Shira doesn't she necessarily needs to do what the previous one did.
I
She
also
needs to find other solutions.
I also like how this episode also shows us a bit more of another one of Adora's flaws personally, where she takes way too much upon herself, and she every and we see like especially here, right, where a failure for her means that like hey, I failed, I need to do even more to prove myself, right? Because she goes out of her way to say like hey, I'm going to attack the horde by myself and stop whatever it is they're doing, and maybe that will help save the
And
plants even
but
though I can't.
and the thing is that this fly is kind of justified because she came from the horde where you saw what happens when someone screws up there.
Mm-hmm.
We can only assume that the things Shadow Weaver or even Hordak did to her when she messed up were kind of left her in this situation where she sees it as a failure and she receives punishments for it.
I
So in a
mean,
sense, it's kind of like something she's carried over from that time of
well,
her
yeah, and she
life, and she
always, and
needs
she
to
probably
go
will
out
for
of
a long
it.
time. Yeah, completely agree. Absolutely agree. Again, I think that's one of the things I like about Shira the most is a lot of the kind of background character stuff that you get, and you only realize you've gotten it until you sit back and say, and start to just think about things and kind of how they play together, right? I kind of like that fact about the show of it doesn't just say, "Hey, here's a character flaw, character flaw," like right in front of your face.
Yeah,
It's like,
definitely.
hey, if you get that this is a character flaw, great. If you don't, then you still get an enjoyable show.
And the thing is, I think that's one of the reasons why people love this show so much
Mm-hmm.
because you can you can understand these flaws and identify with.
A lot of them, yeah. I mean, you can understand like this character is flawed, and you can see the reason why they're flawed is because of past trauma or past abuse, even, and a lot
Yeah.
of people can identify with that.
Like
You
I
know,
can tell you, I can identify. Like I am very harsh on myself in
mm-hmm.
in situations like this.
And a lot of people have dealt with potential abuse from quote unquote authority figures and how they solve them and stuff like that. A lot of people can identify with many of these different characters, even the villains. They can identify with them in some way, shape, or form, and how they treat others and how they treat themselves, right? They can identify with that, and they can say that was me at one point, or maybe that still is me and I'm still working on that. And I think that's one of the reasons why people love this show so much, right? Is because of just how much they can identify of it, and see themselves within the different characters.
And also, in addition to this, when when Adora decides to lead an attack on the Horde's camp in in this village, she does you can say whatever you want about her forcing herself to do something in order to prove herself when she doesn't need to, but she does manage to convince Perfumer's people to fight back and stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows for how much time, maybe even years, this camp has been there, and she managed to convince them to stand up and actually fight back and take back what's theirs. That's Look at us any way you want. That's an achievement.
Yeah, completely agreed.
So, with that said, the
Um,
episode ends with Shadow Weaver, ordering Catra to find Adora, who she
mhm.
now knows is She-Ra.
As well as
And
sending her own personal shadows to spy on her.
yes, which leads us to episode 5, the Sea Gate.
My next.
Seahawk.
What? As you're getting ready to tell me you dislike Seahawk, we're gonna fight. We're gonna throw hands.
Well, it's not like we have an episode of the Outcast, Berkcast, or whatever the hell else we do without a fight. So bring it on. Seahawk is annoying.
You're wrong. Seahawk is great. I loved him. I loved every moment of him. The stupid shanties, the silliness, the over boastfulness. I love him as a character. He's great. I also love
He
his
annoyed me.
design.
I'm sorry.
I love his
The
design
what?
and his design. I enjoy his design.
Oh yeah, and you know something? Something about this design. Do you know the game Tales of Arcadia?
A little
Skies
bit.
of Arcadia. Sorry,
Skies of Arcadia. Skies of Arcadia. Looking it up real quick.
Yeah. And tell me if the main character in that game looks a bit like him.
Skies of Arcadia. Images. Yeah, I can see that.
So
I can see that
like,
very quickly.
yeah. So I see him, and it's like, whoa, somebody needs to pay Sega some cash, I think. But
I can definitely see some resemblance. Agreed.
uh,
It's the
not,
ascot.
yeah, it's not a bad thing, by the way. I'm not saying this is like ripping up or something. Just saying it really reminded me of that. But however, Mermista is cool.
Yeah, I love Mermista too. I enjoyed Seahawk. I know a lot of people say they dislike him. But I liked the. Oh, again, like I said, I enjoyed and liked the over boastfulness, the, kind of the ego, the shanties, the singing, and just, adventure. I loved it. It was great. I loved everything about him. Was very over the top, and I enjoyed that. But I
The
think
thing is that I kind of saw this character being done before and done better in other stuff.
list.
So
Don't
is
just say
not.
which ones. Give me a list. Give me a small list. What character, what has show or book or movie has done this type of character better? Let's see if you're
Deponia,
right. Something I don't know
Deponia,
about, so it doesn't
Rufus.
matter. Doesn't matter. Don't know about it.
Well,
Doesn't count.
well,
Doesn't
okay.
exist.
First of all, I need to tell Hadak about this so that she could bomb you. Hold on, done. Okay, but
Fight me.
on top of my head something that nothing to mind.
That's what I
Aside from
thought.
the
You don't
one,
have
but
nothing. That's right. Seahawk is
I
better
have
than Rufus
something.
from Deponia, which doesn't exist anyways. That's right. I said it. Boom.
Okay, hold on. Let's see how many fuck yous can I give. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Point is, whenever I think of something, I'll get back to you. For the next
It's fair,
episode
right?
for the next episode about Shira, I'll think of something.
Yeah, joking
But
aside, it's fair, right? Like if you dislike the character, I completely get it and understand it and how it could be
I will
grating.
I will say he's not terrible. I've
That's fair. It's
seen
fair.
I've seen far more annoying characters, comic relief characters, than him. Well,
As have I.
I did all this stuff, and then oh no, I didn't. Actually,
That's
I'm all
completely
done.
fair. That is
Yeah,
completely fair. I have definitely seen worse myself as well. But I enjoyed him for what he was. Like, I liked him a
yeah.
lot. And I'm glad he wasn't just a one-note character as well. We do see him come back later, which is fun.
But like I
But
said, I like
Marmista is
Marmista,
definitely she
and
steals the show.
another
She steals this
character,
episode.
and another character introduced in this episode, who I also really like, is Scopia. Scopia is so wholesome, and I feel so sorry for her because she just wants to be Catra's friend, and Catra treats her like shit. But Scopia keeps doing her best to be her friend. Like,
Yeah.
my heart goes out to her.
Scorpia is definitely she is she is too wholesome. But yeah, she's definitely a lot of fun.
She's the unsung hero of this show, if you ask me.
She definitely, especially in the next 2 seasons, I feel like she definitely starts to, in the next, yeah, like looking at season 2 and 3 as one season and season 4 as one season, like those 2 seasons together, or just all 3 of the next season, she definitely starts to steal a lot more of the limelight, I feel, in a good way, right? Especially when she's around. But like, I think Mermista was definitely a lot of fun in this one. Seeing her, that was too good, too enjoyable.
Yeah, something. The one thing that kind of. Sorry about this. Not sure if you heard it.
Oh but, yes, very much so.
Sorry, but the one thing that got me about Mermista is that if She-Ra's supposed to be like the female He-Man, then Mermista gave me like a female Aquaman, if you know what I mean.
I do. And I agree. Like,
but
again,
here's the
Mermistas are very moody emo fish princess.
But here's the thing. I don't like Aquaman, but I like Mermista. So there you go.
Fair.
Fair. And to the people who tell me this in the movie, I don't care. I honestly don't care. Moving on. But this is a fun episode. I enjoyed the Water Kingdom. I enjoy Mermista. I enjoy Scopia. And I also like it at the end where I think it's in this episode, where there's just this small moment of Adora and Catra looking at each other after the fight is over. And it's like, you can still tell that they hate, that, they are on opposite sides, but you can still tell that it kind of hurts them that they do need to fight each other. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's awesome.
Completely agree. Like, you can definitely see, like, there's still a lot of lingering feelings there and that have stayed there and haven't went away yet either, right? Like, they're still figuring things out for both of them, right? And I love the fact that, you have what was I going to say? Again, like, I agree. It was just a lot of fun episodes. We were introduced to more enjoyable and fun characters. I love how Seahawk and Glimmer have a moment, and Glimmer just tells him, okay, and their entire plan is to, set their ship on fire and run it into the other ship, and apparently Seahawk's done this to multiple other ships. That's just his thing. I love that. Again, that's why I love this character. He's just fun.
Fair enough.
Like, this was a very fun episode, I feel.
Mm-hmm. So, moving to episode 6.
You broke up a little bit. You went a little bit roboty, but yes, moving on to episode 6. You're good right now.
Okay, system failure. So as far as I'm good, I would say that this is my favorite of the princesses. This is Entrapta. Entrapta is amazing, if only for the hair. And let me guess.
No, I actually really like Entrapta too. Like, it's interesting, right? I talked with a few people after watching the season and said, I think Entrapta might be my favorite out of the princesses. And they were like, really? I didn't like Entrapta all that much. And I'm like, really? You disliked Entrapta? Like, yeah, I didn't really care for her. You're wrong.
Who are these idiots?
I really liked Entrapta. And I'll agree. I don't know why. It's just her design was just great. I really enjoyed it. It's fun.
On the one hand, when I said I do get why people can hate her, or not like her, but at the same time,
some people did say it was the voice.
But here's the thing: I think that's the idea. I think
Oh yeah.
that's the idea that she's supposed to be that in a kind of introvert who finds more comfortable field in science than being around people,
Mm-hmm.
and this helps selling it that she can't really make people like her. This is a show. So, in a sense, I guess that maybe to some people they did that job way too well, because
Hmm.
people don't like her. But personally, I really like her. If again for the design, like her hair, she can literally do stuff with her hair. She's like if Shantae went to an extreme, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. This is fair.
I'm I'm probably the only person in the entire Shira fandom who got the reference I made. So yay me.
Maybe. Maybe.
Mhm.
But yeah, Entrapta's just a lot of fun and very enjoyable as a character. And this was a good episode. And I think,
Mhm.
the focus of this episode is Entrapta's apparently, she's a scientist, she's an inventor, she creates a bunch of different robots. And that's why they're trying to get her back onto the
By the way,
Princess
another thing
Alliance.
I like is that another thing I like is that you have all these princesses that there's a princess of plants, there's a princess of water, there's a warrior princess, there's a princess who can teleport and stuff. But
Spoilers.
what spoilers?
I mean, a warrior princess? Spoilers, that's not this season.
I'm talking about Shira herself, you dolt.
She-Ra's a princess of everything, really. Let's be honest, not just
Okay,
a warrior.
okay, basically I meant Shira, not whatever you think. But the thing is that you never really get to see like a scientist princess, so that's unique. I like this.
Well, it's also interesting, right? Because like you have these people with powers who aren't connected to runestones, right? And we still haven't. And it's interesting to see, like, okay, so some people have their powers connected to these runestones, which are very important, things within this world. But then you have other people who have abilities and powers that aren't connected to runestones, and it's very, like, two princesses that were introduced to early at the beginning who don't really do a lot this season, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. But we do
Mhm.
see more of them in the next season, doing a bit more and hearing more from them, which is Spinnerella and Natessa, I think their names are. They both have
Yeah.
powers, right? It's like, where does their abilities come from, right? It's very interesting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I would enjoy
I
learning
think.
more about that.
Mhm. But anyway, I think this was a fun episode, and again, it was fun to get to know Entrapta.
I agree. And we
So,
get to see Adora being very different in this episode, which is very enjoyable because apparently Entrapta's working with First One's Tech, the race that
mhm.
was here well before anyone else and kind of
Yeah.
found this world and worked on it and did things and have, different ruins and stuff lying around, which is apparently what the sword that Adora uses to turn into to transform English. I'm no good at it. That Adora's sword is also First One's tech. We learned that a little while ago, but we also see that apparently this First One's virus that Entrapta causes infects the robots, but it also infects Adora's sword as well. And you can
Mhm.
see that when she's She-Ra, it makes her super aggressive and angry. But
Yes.
when she transforms back, when you take the sword away from her, she becomes very, I guess you would say, drunk, right? Or high,
Yeah.
maybe, like just on drugs,
Let's
essentially.
let's let's go with drunk.
Sure, whatever you wish to call it. Essentially, she's drugged though. She's very
Mhm.
loopy. She's very out there. She's not helpful at all.
Come on, now we climb.
Mm. But I
Not a
enjoyed that.
direct
It
quote
was.
from the episode.
This is true. I enjoyed that. It was fun to see Adora being very different from her normal, more kind of anxious self, right? Kind of very straightforward, a little anxious, little, very, very to the point self, right?
Yep.
So it was fun to see her in a much different way.
Mhm. So, moving on to episode 7.
I do want to point out Bo forms a little group with the waiter staff who are apparently very good fighters
Yeah.
and didn't even realize it. Like, they take out those robots like it's nothing.
Hmm.
And that's amazing.
Indeed. So, episode 7, in the shadows of mystical.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take the lead on this one? I honestly with this
This
episode.
is the one where Glimmer takes Adora and Bo to the hidden sorcerer's kingdom of Mysticor, guarded by Glimmer's aunt. If I'm not mistaken, is Castaspella. God, these names! I only
Yeah,
realized
this name.
seeing them spelled. Like, you don't think about it when they're like when they say them,
Yeah,
but when you see them
but then when
spelled
you
out, when you
it's
read
like,
them, it's
oof.
like, yeah, I get why you did it, but it's kind of like,
I can just see
Mermista,
the.
Perfuma,
Can,
Castaspella,
can you
Adora.
just
Ugh.
imagine? Can you just imagine like the fan fiction community for this, like having to write these names and all of the document probably being with red underlines
I
because
bet.
the because Rhodes doesn't recognize these
This is
things.
true. This is true. I bet anything that's annoying to say the least. Fanfiction writers who write She-Ra fanfiction, get in touch. Let us know. How annoying is it to write fanfiction when you're always told this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong all the time? But seriously, these writers must have had a lot of fun coming up with these silly names. I'm sure some of them come from the old 80s She-Ra too, but still, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. If anybody, if how much of this is carried over from
Fucking Castaspella. Jesus. Anyway.
Anyway, I just saying this right now, I just realized this is cast a spell with an A at the end.
It is.
Oh fuck.
But
Like,
this is. Go ahead.
I just imagine, I think I probably joked about this once whenever, I have this character who is like an asshole. Say Spanish, that's his name. So this is like not even looking at different language. It's like they do spells, cast a spell as an A at the genius. Let's promote this person. Anyway,
Again,
episode
like I
7.
said, I think they had fun with it. But yeah, episode 7, this is where we learn a lot about Shadow Weaver's past. Because this is the Shadow Weaver, this is the kingdom that Shadow Weaver is a part of, because Shadow Weaver used to be a sorceress. And she used to work with the kingdom of Mysticor, right? And this is also, like Adora's brought here to try and help her relax, and because Adora feels like she's being watched and spied on, and she is because of the shadows, right? Going from there, like we learned a lot about Shadow Weaver's past and how Shadow Weaver apparently did at one point in time oppose the Horde, right? Like she wanted to fight the Horde, and unfortunately the methods she wanted to fight the Horde with were very extreme and very drastic. She wanted to pull out some very dangerous and deadly dark magic in order to try and defeat the Horde, right? We also learned that Shadow Weaver apparently taught Glimmer's father how to do magic. And apparently Glimmer's father was exceptionally gifted as well.
This is actually one of those plot points I was like, oh, okay. That's interesting.
It's very interesting to see kind of how people are connected with one another, yeah. And we even see back then, right, that Shadow Weaver was still kind of manipulative, and how she manipulated Glimmer's father into doing some of the things that she wanted to do, until the very end, where he was afraid of the spell and left her, and that's when the spell went awry, and it, I guess, infected Shadow Weaver to a description, and like it's kind of slowly killing her in a way, because we learn earlier
because
on,
because she needs that stone.
Yeah, she Scorpia's runestone was given to Shadow Weaver in order for Shadow Weaver to draw power from it, and it seems like if Shadow Weaver.
Sorry, who does the stone belong to?
Scorpia.
Isn't it like a plot point from the future season?
I think that's revealed. I mean, we see the runestone. Fuck it. I spoiled it. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
Mhm.
I never
Yeah.
said I wasn't a hypocrite, as I've said before. But yeah, it's a runestone she draws power from. We'll bleep all that. We'll delete that. You never heard that. Just skip over that. It doesn't exist if that was a spoiler that wasn't revealed this season. It's
Whatever you
someone's
say.
runestone. It's one of the princess's runestones. Who could it be? I'm pretty sure Scorpia says she's a princess in this season.
Okay, okay. Never mind. Stop digging your own grave. Let's move on.
That's my job. You're one to talk too. Anyways,
Yeah, you make fun of me when I do this, so I'm going to use every bit of opportunity I have.
fair. Um, but yeah, like we learn a lot about Shadow Weaver's past and how she came to be where she's at now and why she is the way she is, right? And we learn that she could have killed Glimmer's father there and then, but she didn't. I guess because he helped her and she liked him, right? So she let him live. And this was, by the way, a much younger Glimmer's father. Like Glimmer's father was practically a kid during this time, right? During this flashback. But then we see Adora take on, the Shadow and how she says that, she's not afraid of Shadow Weaver anymore. She's not going to fall for her tricks anymore. She's moved past her. She's realized that Shadow Weaver manipulated her and abused her, right? And like this is really good stuff. Like, having Adora confront Shadow Weaver on all this and say like, "Hey, I've moved past you now. I'm better than you now. I don't need you anymore." Like this is really good stuff for Adora, I think and feel.
Yes. So, next episode.
Sure.
So, episode 8, Princess Prom. And let me just say this, okay? If you weren't sold on the entire Adora and Catra ship before this is the episode that will probably sell anyone on this because,
Yeah.
well,
That fucking dance is too good. I loved it. That dance was adorable. Catra can rock a suit, by the way.
yeah, I just want to point out that, when I was looking for, references on Google for Shira drawing I was working on at the time, when I googled Catra, most of the images I found were this dance. So
Not
there
surprising
you go.
at all.
Yeah, not surprising, but fun fact: when you're looking for drawing references, you get this.
Completely fair.
Anyway, so there's a Princess Prom with and we find out another Princess Frosta,
Mm-hmm.
who is basically the Elsa of this show,
Yes.
only younger.
And a little annoying.
Yeah, from the princesses, she's the one I'm the most about, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of from the princesses from this season at least, and kind of some of the later seasons too. I think Frost is the one I'm the least interested in. Like she's very meh in my opinion compared to some of the others. Like I enjoy a lot of the other princesses a lot more than I do Frosta.
She again not terrible, but just what can you do?
I mean, it's fair. Like again, she is younger than a lot of the other princesses, so I think that is kind of the point, right? She's supposed to be a bit more overbearing and a little bit more annoying. But again, it's not something that is the worst thing ever, and it does, they do play with that and work with that character-wise in the later seasons
Yep.
too.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
aside from this, we do have another plot in this, which is Glimmer being jealous of Bo.
and him going to the prom with Perfuma.
Yeah, which I honestly don't really get, if I'm honest.
I like it because it kind of shows that just how it kind of, in a way, again, it shows just how flawed so many of these characters are. Like Glimmer only ever had Bo as a friend before Adora came along, and Glimmer really doesn't know what to do with herself without Bo. Again, she's not jealous because of I like him. She's jealous because of my friend's leaving me and I don't know how to cope with that, and I don't have any other friends, and my friend's moving on and I don't like that. Why should he move on?
I get it, but at the same time, I had to deal with this kind of person, and it ended up really ugly. So this kind of gave me bad memories. But
Again,
that's me. I'm aware this is a me problem. I'm just
again though,
saying.
I think people can relate to, and it's a good way to see how Glimmer deals with this because maybe it could help people like who are like that, right? Of like, hey, you're my friend. Why should you have other friends? I need you to be my friend. Why don't you be my friend? Why aren't you here for me? Right? Like, and I like how Glimmer sees this, and and she deals with this, and Bo sees this and deals with this as well, and they have that talk with each other, and they kind of work it out a little bit, right? Like I like that. I enjoyed that. I think it was done really well here, and it kind of shows like, hey, this is how things should go. You're allowed to have other friends. You're allowed to hang out with other people. You can not be together all the time, right? Again, it's another one of those character flaws for Glimmer that you kind of see her grow from in this episode, which I really enjoyed. But
Yeah,
if you've had to
that's a
deal
good
with
point.
it from the negative aspect of this, I can see why you probably wouldn't be as fond of it. Something that I think was great about this episode. I already talked about how the Adora catcher dance was just wonderful, and I loved every second of that. But also just seeing how Adora has no idea how to handle a prom, so she immediately falls back into like her military training with the Horde, and she tries to formulate a strategy and all these different like, okay, here's I'm going to use these pieces as like my you know set up, and I'm just going to say like this is the place I need to be for this, and this is what I need to say to this person. And she's very much like military person strategizing about how she's going to handle the problem because that's all she has to fall back on. I love that. It's just a
Yes.
great little character moment. And just seeing how she's freaking out about all of it.
And by the way, I want to say for an episode that could have easily been just a filler thing, it ends on a very intense cliffhanger.
Mm.
Because basically Adora loses. Catra kidnaps Bone Glimmer, and also
Mm-hmm.
takes the sword.
Yes.
So yeah, that's for an episode. In any other be, oh, it's like the filler episode. It's the fun episode before stuff starts going insane. But in here, it's like, oh shit, the good guys lose. So I appreciate the change of pace.
Oh, it also shows like we see Frosta, who's very upset with Adora because Adora keeps, making all these different mistakes when it comes to the prom and and disrupting the etiquette of the prom in order to try and prove that Catra and Scorpio are there to cause harm or mess with something in some way. And eventually, like Adora's proven right, but it's already too late, right? At that point, they bomb Frosta's castle. People are in danger, and Bo and Glimmer and, as you said, the sword get taken. And I love how you have a moment in this episode where Adora still, even though she sees that even though she sees Catra as enemy, she still chooses to save Catra's life, or what she thinks is saving Catra's life, because of the fact that she still cares, right? Like I love that. I love this. I love the background stuff going on there, right? As far as character development goes, like it's really nice.
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
done really well.
Agreed.
But moving right along.
Definitely. Moving right along to episode 9, No Princess Left Behind. So basically, this is something I kind of wanted to do, and I'm glad that I didn't wait for a future season to see this happening, which is actually Shira and the other princesses team up to
Mm-hmm.
lead an attack.
Mm-hmm. To
So
save Glimmer and Bo.
yes, and so I like it. I'm not sure how to feel about the fact that the plan goes wrong entirely, but still, I like the idea that okay, some of our best people have been kidnapped. We are going to take action about this, and we are going to free them as soon as possible. And, and then and it's also this is basically one of those like in a sense, a big action sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So I always enjoy those. And there's also a part which is interesting that Catra actually returns Adora's sword to her, and this and allows them to escape. Which again, like you said from the previous episode, it shows that they still care for each other.
Hmm.
And say what you want, platonically or romantically, this works. This has emotion to it, and I like it. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, you can always
Thank
see the emotion behind everything, and I think it really makes sense because you see at the beginning of No Princess Left Behind, where you see Shadow Weaver taking credit for Catra's accomplishment again, right? Like Catra's playing second fiddle to someone else now, and she still doesn't like that, and it kind of just puts that thought back into her mind of the problems she has with the Horde once more, right? And
Which
you see this, and
also,
so that's probably why she helps Adora and the others to escape because she wants Shadow Weaver to fail.
yeah, that's another thing that for one on the one hand you can say that here allowing Adora to escape with the sword. On the one hand, it's like it's like she cares about Adora, but at the same time, this is my chance to make
Well, I think it's right. It's like she cares about Adora, but she doesn't really want to admit that to herself, right? So she does. So she would outright say like, "Hey, you failed," and you know, she would. I think in some ways like to say that she did it to make sure Shadow Weaver failed, so Shadow Weaver would look bad. But at the same time, right, it is still because she cares about Adora. It's just Catcher has a hard time admitting that, right?
yeah. So this is good. This is great.
Um, yeah, I love, we see Adora's plan for how everyone's going to go through and do stuff, and we have to, Remista has to go into the
But
sewers, and just a lot of stuff
and
goes wrong
then
with that, and it's fun. You have,
but it does end on an interesting note when that they think Atrapta dies, and actually no, she is alive and well at and now working for the Horde because they kind of brainwashed her to believe that the other princesses just want to get rid of her.
I don't feel they brainwashed her. Catra just kind of manipulated her.
Okay, Brent, I'm not saying, okay, I meant manipulate, not
You
necessarily.
got to be clear with that.
Yeah, that's my bad, but you know what I mean.
But yeah, I get what you mean. Like they manipulated and trapped her into thinking the others just didn't care about her because they didn't come back with her so immediate. They didn't come back for her immediately, right? And because of how Entrapta has a hard time making friends, I feel, and how kind of introverted she is, she believes that, right? And she's hurt by that. And so she decides to start helping out Catra and Scorpia and the Horde, right? And helping them, make weapons and stuff like that. Also, I love the fact that we haven't talked about them enough, but I love how Bo and Kyle form a small relationship here because Bo is just willing to sit because Bo had no choice but to sit there and just listen to Kyle. And even Bo's kind of like, God, poor Kyle, by the way.
Yep.
Um, After that, we have in this episode, uh, yes, we have Glimmer getting potentially hurt and not being able to use her own
Yeah,
powers. We
that
find out a little
was
bit.
kind. That actually looked painful, honestly.
Mm. We even had Shadow Weaver trying to, alter Adora's memories to restore her previous mindset before she found the sword and went to the rebellion in order to continue to have control over Adora. We had in this episode a lot of fun stuff with Seahawk and Scorpia, right? And Seahawk just trying to convince Scorpia that he's the inspector and just having to ride away with Scorpia. That's them two kind of out of the picture for a while. I loved that. It's just that's their own little adventure now. I just love that. Those two characters I think are really great together. And they play
Hmm.
on this in a later season too, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, that's true. So,
Yeah, overall a really, kind of climactic and somewhat of a
and you can tell that this is kind of we are starting to set up the finale. Like
mm-hmm.
this is like this shit is starting to go down. With Glimmer being unable to use her powers, to the Horde having one of the princesses working for them and
Mm-hmm.
everything. and so yeah, that's this is like again this you can some probably argue is a bit of a filler, but at the same time it does help set up the final three episodes
I don't
and
think
the
this is
fact
filler at
that
all. I would disagree
I,
with
I'm
that.
not okay. I'm not saying that it necessarily is, but I can see like some people saying that at the at the end of the day, this just again planted some seeds and didn't necessarily move the story forward.
I disagree, and I feel those people don't understand what the word filler means.
Okay.
But that's just me at least anyways. But still yet, like, this is a very enjoyable episode. A very kind of somber episode, and reminds you like, hey, this is a war going on still. Like, people can, die, right?
None of
Potentially.
this is good. This
Yeah.
is why it's called war.
Although she doesn't die, but still yet, like, the idea is there, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Moving on to episode 11, Promise.
Episode 10.
We just do 10?
No, that was No Princess Left Behind is what we were talking about.
Oh, I thought we were on 10 already. Okay, my bad. Sorry.
No, now we're on 10. The Beacon.
Okay, so 10 is the episode I said, which is a bit of a filler, which plants seeds.
Oh, this is the one you're talking about.
Yes.
Episode 10
so
is...
no wonder we were talking about.
You broke up?
Well, we were talking about the wrong episode. No wonder you didn't realize how people call this episode filler. Okay.
I thought you were talking about episode 9 as filler. Episode 10.
No. This is what I mean when we started planting seeds with So Entrapta is working for the Horde. Glimmer is hurt and can't use her abilities.
I see.
This is the point.
Okay, yeah, well, all right. So looking at episode 10, like, yeah, Glimmer can't use her ability. She has something going on. You have Mermista and Perfuma leaving the Alliance, Frosta closing off her kingdom because, Entrapta died, and they think, like, hey, maybe the Princess Alliance is just a bad idea, right? Maybe we shouldn't do these things. So Adora leaves to hopefully try and get Glimmer healed by going back to the Beacon, right? And maybe she can find a way to help cure Glimmer, to help cure Glimmer there. And in this episode, like, this is why I didn't bring it up, because if we were talking about it, I thought this was important, right? Is that, if I'm not mistaken, in episode 10 is when Catra fights Shadow Weaver. Is that it, or is that a later episode?
I think this. I just remember that this is. I'm not sure if this is the one where they fight. I think this is the later one.
Yeah, I think it is.
But Catra does end up chasing Adora to the beacon.
I meant like Catra fighting Shadow Weaver, not Adora. But Catra does end up chasing Adora to the beacon after.
Yeah, I meant Shadow Weaver. I think it's not later episode.
Okay. I might be wrong. Reading the list we have here, I think I am wrong. It's a later episode. But Catra chases Adora into the beacon because Entrapta tells Catra that there's a large stash of First One's technology under the Whispering Woods, right? And so, again, as you said, Catra follows Adora to the beacon, and that leads us into episode 11, Promise, which I think is probably my favorite episode of season 1. I think, like, this episode has the most going for it. And probably and definitely I would say sets up the relationship between Catra and Adora, right? And sets up Catra's turn going forward in the later seasons too. I feel this is the start of that officially.
I guess you could, going over the episode description a bit and refreshing my mind. I guess you could say this episode is a character study for both Adora and Catra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's good. It's interesting. I've seen these two characters for 10 episodes, so I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going on with them, and seeing them actually having to kind of work together and kind of be like what they used to, but at the same time not being what they used to, and all the emotions are there, and it makes it a really good episode to watch.
This is our first. This is kind of our first, not entirely our first introduction, but our kind of first introduction to Light Hope, the AI system for the beacon and the Crystal Castle being named Light Hope, like her actual name. Our first introduction to that, but we learn more about her in the next episode. But like the big focus here is just Adora and Catra and them kind of seeing their past memories and just learning a bit about Adora and Catra's past and how close they were and kind of how their relationship was and how it formed, right? Compared to how they are now, right? And just seeing like Catra, seeing like, the idea of the promise of Catra being hurt and Adora coming up to her and like, hey, don't worry about it. It's just me. I'll always be here for you as long as we're together. We'll be safe, right? And you kind of see like, Catra really took to that, like deeply took to that. Like her entire reason with putting up with everything she put up with from Shadow Weaver and the Horde was because of that promise. And to then like, just see Adora leave. Apparently that means that Adora, to her, to Catra, that meant that Adora apparently didn't care about that promise, that she didn't care about her, about being together. And that's not how Adora meant that to be at all. And you can kind of see Adora coming to realize that ever so slightly in this episode and desperately trying to tell Catra, like, hey, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't want you to take it that way. We can still be together. We can still do things together. But you kind of see in this episode where Catra, after seeing that old memory and having it brought back to the surface and knowing what's going on now, you get this feeling of like, it kind of breaks Catra in a way because she kind of tells Adora like, hey, I don't need you anymore. I didn't want you. You were the one holding me back. And in a way, I think this is kind of good for Catra to kind of get off of her chest, right, and tell Adora, because it's kind of the first bit of communication these characters have had that they desperately need, right? Unfortunately, Catra doesn't listen to what Adora has to say, though. She only wants to tell Adora what she has to say, which is, I don't need you. You were the one holding me back. It wasn't the other way around. I'm just as good as, if not better than you, and I'm going to show that now.
Yep, agreed.
Just
Yes.
a lot of good stuff in this episode between these two specifically. And and some very great setup for their relationship going forward in the later seasons.
So, the cliffhanger of this episode leads us to episode 12, Light Hope.
Adora falling into the abyss after Light Hope tells her to let go, and that's when we're introduced to the woman, the AI woman in question herself, the AI, Light Hope.
Yeah. And she does tell Adora that she's the protector of Etheria, which is the name of the planet they're on, and and that she's going to help Adora train to become a full-fledged She-Ra, which is something that is taking place in the future seasons as well. Another thing about this episode is that this is the first appearance of Swiftwind after his transformation.
We get to hear him talk.
Yeah, I'm half enough about Swiftwind, honestly.
He's a little bit. I think, as far as comedic characters go, like he's the one I kind of like the least. Like I liked Seahawk a lot more as a comedic character than I do Swiftwind personally. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And meanwhile,
we also
this is the episode.
We learn a lot. We learn a lot more about the legacy of She-Ra and the first ones too. We learn a lot more about them in this episode.
Yeah, that's true. But what I want to say is that the fight between Catra and the Shadow Weaver that we talk about is in this episode.
Yes, it was. Yeah, this is where we see Catra, after having kind of been broken somewhat by Adora and that past memory, we see her finally take on Shadow Weaver and say, hey, you like, we see Shadow Weaver still trying to put Catra down and tear her down as like she's worth nothing, she's worthless, she can't do anything on her own, and Catra, saying like, hey, that's not true at all. I can. Everything you put me through, I've been learning from, and now I'm the best possible person who can take you down, and she does just that. She takes down Shadow Weaver.
Yeah, to the point she also, she knocks off the mask.
Mm-hmm. And we finally see kind of Shadow Weaver's face somewhat.
Which I do like is not necessarily a quote unquote normal face, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Also, because it's also like there's always like a scar or something. It's like, no, it's just not a human face, and I like it that it's not necessarily hiding something.
I think this is also the episode where we learn that Scorpia's runestone is the Black Garnet runestone. I think this is the episode where we learn that.
Yeah, there's an option for that.
Because the Black Garnet was given to Shadow Weaver, and I think that's what brings up this whole discussion. And Hordak okays Entrapta's experiments on the Black Garnet runestone, and Shadow Weaver dislikes that, and that's what ends up starting the whole fight between Catra and Shadow Weaver.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Other than
that, we are preparing for, it does end with with all of Entrapta's experiments with the Black Garnet. Ateria freezes, at least the woods freeze, and this kind of leads us to to the final episode of the season, which is the Battle of Bright Moon.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to say about it, if I need to sum up the final episode quickly, is just satisfying. That's the word I would use, because it's everybody coming together for a final fight. Does what we kind of know that they're doing. Each one has its own way of fighting, and it's a grand fight. So good. Just a great way to finish. There's a part of me that it's kind of that that there's a point where like Shira loses her
sword.
She loses her sword, but then like all of the princesses together like manage to help her regain the power and something. That felt a bit like my friends are my power, which in the context of the show doesn't make much sense.
I think it's kind of showing off that they're all stronger together when they're working as a team, because and it does kind of give off the wrong impression, and you do kind of learn more about why this is the case in future seasons, right? And how this isn't necessarily a good thing, right? Because you see like, hey, the Black Garnet, right, is taking too much of the power from Etheria in whatever it is experiment-wise they're doing to it. And you learn that, okay, there's, the other princesses are connected to this, and so is She-Ra as well. And She-Ra's able to get things back under control with her power. And you kind of learn a little bit here about how they're all somehow connected. And you learn more about this in the future as to why they're connected and what that means and things like that, right? But, yeah, I agree. Like, this is a very good way to end the episode. I feel like you have everything kind of coming to a head. You have Catra and She-Ra and their kind of big battle here, and how Adora focuses on Catra to kind of the detriment of everything else. Like, she could absolutely take down the tanks much more easily, but she respects and fears Catra so much that she views her as the bigger threat, right? Which is kind of what Catra wants, right? Which is very interesting. And you see, like you said, you see Mermista, Perfuma, and Seahawk, and even Frosta arrive in to kind of help save the day and everything. And they do end up beating back the Horde and kind of putting the Horde back on the back foot as the Horde loses, and the princesses are back together and in a lot stronger position, even though the Whispering Woods are frozen over. And at the end of it, we see, despite Catra's failure, she's able to convince Hordak that She's gotten closer than anyone else ever could to taking down Bright Moon, so Hordak makes Catra his second in command, very
Yes,
quickly
this is.
denoting that, he doesn't see her as an equal, and how that's potentially going to come to a head later as well, right? That
Yep.
Catra and Hordak definitely might end up being at odds.
But
Spoilers!
overall, yeah, this is something that we will explore more
Mm-hmm.
as the series goes on. But yeah, but overall, a satisfying season finale. I enjoyed it. Some stuff are a bit unexplained, but they go ahead to explain them in the
Yeah,
future
it's definitely,
seasons. So.
there's a lot of questions left unanswered, right? And there's a lot of things like, some of this doesn't feel very good when you take it by itself, but as you go on to the next seasons, I feel some of it's like takes on a much more different meaning, right? And a much more enjoyable meaning. So you're kind of left with a very good opening season that I think sets up a lot, right? Which is what you get from, I think, most shows in their first season, is a lot of good setup. But I think this is really well done, good setup, with a lot of good character moments thrown in as well.
Okay, I agree.
And I think it's
So.
definitely the character moments is what sold me on this
Mhm.
season. I think that's why episode 11, The Promise, is probably my personal favorite season, my personal favorite episode from this
My,
season. My
yeah,
personal
I
favorite
I can
season.
see. Yeah, I can see why.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else? I think we're basically done. We went
She-Ra
over.
is great. You should definitely watch it if you have not yet. Do not
Yeah,
sleep on this show like I did.
definitely a good first season for a great show.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we have to say is that this is all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What did
Mm-hmm.
you think about the first season of She-Ra? What is your favorite episode? Did you just get into it, or have you been there since the start? What do have you come into this with any knowledge of the original She-Ra? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. And yeah, we'll see you next time when we cover seasons 2 and 3 of She-Ra and the Princess of Power.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.